The air hung thick, a cloying sweetness laced with the metallic tang of dread. Not the sharp, acrid bite of ozone you'd expect, but something softer, insidious, like pennies left to rust in a forgotten fountain. My fingers, slick with a nervous film, traced the cool, unforgiving steel of the briefcase. It wasn't just a container. It was a tomb, a silent judge, a locked door separating me from oblivion, or perhaps condemning me to it. The digital clock on the lid blinked crimson, each second a hammer blow against the fragile scaffolding of my composure. 14:37. 14 minutes and 37 seconds until... what? I refused to voice the word, to give it substance, to let it crawl out of the shadows and claim me. The silence in the room was a physical presence, pressing against my eardrums, amplifying the frantic thrum of my own heartbeat. It was the kind of silence that screamed, the kind that held its breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion of sound and chaos. Outside, the city probably hummed along, oblivious. People laughed, argued, hurried to appointments, sipped coffee, utterly unaware that their world teetered on the precipice, held back only by a few wires, a timer, and the trembling hands of a man they'd never met. My gaze snagged on the reflection in the polished steel, a ghost of a face, pale and drawn, eyes wide with a fear I couldn't mask. It was a stranger staring back, a man stripped bare, reduced to his most primal instinct, survival. This wasn't the cool, collected professional I pretended to be. This was just me. And right now, me was terrified. The memory hit me like a rogue wave, pulling me under, dragging me back to a sun-drenched afternoon, the smell of chlorine and sunscreen thick in the air. Her laughter, bright and clear as a mountain stream, echoed in my ears. Sarah, 8 years old, fearless, perched on the high dive, her small frame a silhouette against the azure sky. She hesitated for a moment, her confidence wavering, and I remember the way her eyes sought mine, a silent plea for reassurance. "You can do it, Peanut," I'd yelled, my voice cracking with a mixture of pride and anxiety. "I'm right here." She'd taken a deep breath, a tiny warrior facing her own personal Everest, and then she jumped. The splash, the eruption of water, the sheer joy on her face as she surfaced. It was a moment etched into my memory, a beacon of pure, unadulterated happiness. I remembered wrapping her in a towel, her wet hair clinging to my face, the smell of chlorine and little girl sweetness filling my senses. She'd squeezed my hand, her small fingers tight around mine, and whispered, "I did it, Daddy! I did it!" Those words, "I did it," resonated now, a faint echo in the sterile silence of the room. Sarah, my daughter, my reason, the reason I couldn't fail, the reason I had to push past the fear, to find the calm in the chaos, to focus on the task at hand. She was the anchor that kept me grounded, the light that pierced the darkness, the voice that whispered, "You can do it, Daddy. I'm right here." I thought of her now, a young woman, vibrant and full of life, about to embark on her own adventures. College applications, first dates, the whole world stretched out before her, shimmering with possibilities. And the thought of all that being snuffed out, of her future being stolen, ignited a fire within me, a burning resolve that pushed back against the encroaching fear. I had to do this, for her. The green wire. Always the goddamn green wire. It was a phantom limb, twitching in my periphery. I could feel the sweat beading on my forehead, stinging my eyes. Ben was a statue beside me, his breath shallow and rapid. He knew this was it. "Remember the drill," I rasped, my voice cracking. It was a lie. There was no drill for this. We'd trained for red, blue, yellow, even the improbable purple, but never this. Never this cruel twist of fate. Green was the wild card, the fuck you from a bomb maker who clearly enjoyed a sick joke. My fingers hovered over the wire cutters. They felt heavy, clumsy, instruments of potential death. My mind raced, a frantic hamster wheel churning through every scenario, every training module, every whispered anecdote from veterans who'd seen too much. Nothing. There was nothing. This was uncharted territory, a minefield of uncertainty. Then I saw it, a tiny, almost imperceptible scratch on the green wire near the base. A scratch that wasn't there before. It was too clean, too deliberate to be accidental. Someone had scored the wire, weakened it. It wasn't about which wire to cut, it was about how to cut it. A quick, clean snip would complete the circuit. A slow, deliberate severance. Maybe, just maybe, it would break it. My hand tightened on the cutters. This wasn't skill. This was a gamble. A roll of the dice with our lives as the stakes. I looked at Ben, his face pale and drawn, his eyes locked on mine. He understood. He saw the desperation, the impossible choice. He gave a barely perceptible nod, a silent blessing, a farewell. I took a deep breath, the air thick and metallic in my lungs. Time seemed to slow, each second stretching into an eternity. The world narrowed, focusing on that single green wire, that tiny scratch, the cold steel of the cutters. This was it. This was everything. With a surge of adrenaline, I pressed the blades against the wire, applying slow, agonizing pressure. I could feel the resistance, the give, the inevitable snap. It was a lifetime compressed into a single, agonizing moment. The wire parted. A deafening silence followed. The world held its breath. Then, a click. A small, insignificant click that echoed through the room like a thunderclap. My heart stopped. Ben flinched. We waited. And waited. Nothing. The bomb remained silent, inert, diffused. The relief was a physical force, a wave that crashed over me, leaving me weak and trembling. I slumped against the wall, the cutters falling from my numb fingers. Ben let out a shaky breath, a sob that he quickly choked back. We were alive. We had survived. But something had irrevocably changed. Now, years later, the silence is still there. Not the deafening silence of that room, but a different kind. A silence that fills the spaces between words. A silence that clings to the edges of my thoughts. It's the silence of unacknowledged trauma, the silence of unspoken fears. The nightmares come and go, unpredictable as the tides. Sometimes I'm back in that room, the green wire shimmering in the dim light, the clock ticking down relentlessly. Other times it's a different bomb, a different threat, but the feeling is always the same. The crushing weight of responsibility, the paralyzing fear of failure, the knowledge that one wrong move could mean everything. I try to avoid green. It's a childish aversion, I know, but I can't help it. Green lawns, green clothes, even green traffic lights trigger a flicker of anxiety, a tightening in my chest. Ben understands. We don't talk about it, but he understands. He sees the shadow that clings to me, the haunted look in my eyes. He carries his own, I'm sure. We drift in and out of contact, a phone call every few months, a brief email, a chance encounter at the grocery store. We're polite, cordial, but there's a distance between us, a wall built of unspoken memories and shared trauma. We were forged in the crucible of that moment, but the fire that tempered us also burned us apart. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice, if there was another way, another solution that I missed. The doubt gnaws at me, a persistent ache that never quite goes away. I replay the scene in my mind, searching for a different outcome, a different path. But there is none. There is only the green wire, the scratch, the slow, agonizing cut. I try to find solace in routine. Wake up, exercise, go to work, come home, eat dinner, go to sleep. A monotonous cycle that keeps the demons at bay, at least for a little while. But even in the midst of the mundane, the memory lingers, a constant reminder of what I've done, what I've seen, what I've survived. I see a therapist. She asks me about my feelings, my fears, my dreams. I try to be honest, but there are things I can't say, things that are too dark, too raw, too painful to share. She nods sympathetically, offers platitudes about healing and recovery. But she doesn't understand. She can't understand. She wasn't there. The bomb is diffused, but the explosion still echoes within me. A silent, invisible blast that continues to reshape my life, my relationships, my very being. I am a survivor, but I am also a casualty of a war that never ends, a war that rages on inside my own mind. And the green, the accursed green, will forever be the color of that war.